You know what, Jamie? Let's pop off right now. We got to get started.
We gotta go.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's get the people in the chat. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from sportsdaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flamong, and we've got a nice show for you today. Shaun Crawford, former Notre Dame defensive back, is going to be on the show, and he's going to be talking to us about big game prep, how he preps for big games, the best way that he thinks is for Notre Dame to prep for a big game, what gets him in the right space for a game like this coming into Ohio State, with them coming into Notre Dame Stadium, and obviously a very big game this weekend. So wanted to chat with him about that, get his thoughts on the game, and other things that might come up in conversation. So really happy to have him on. But first, I want to talk to everyone about a couple of our sponsors, the first of which is ESQ Clothing. And if you're looking to upgrade your wardrobe, ESQ has created the world's first bamboo dress shirt, crafted from high-quality bamboo fabric. It's the softest and most comfortable shirt you'll ever put on. It's not only more sustainable than cotton, but also feels cooler, has stretch, it is odor and wrinkle resistant, and it's even machine washable. You've seen ESQ's one-piece collar bamboo dress shirt, and it's the perfect shirt for today's business meeting or heading for a night out. Use ISD15 and get 15% off all online items. That's ISD15 and get 15% off all online items. And our other sponsor for today, I'm very proud to have VSR Media, founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy award-winning anchor Vahid. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com and mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. All right, everyone, let's get to the conversation. All right, everyone, we're here with Shaun Crawford, former Notre Dame defensive back. Shaun, thanks for being on the show.
Greg, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. I greatly enjoyed the first time you were here, and so we're happy to have you on again for this, for the big game, obviously, that's coming up this weekend. And I really wanted to talk to you specifically because you've been in a number of big games at Notre Dame, and I wanted to kind of get inside of the process of what it is like for the players to kind of prep for a big game like this, and when that all starts. So my first question is to you is, when does the feeling start to change leading up to a big game? Like when does that shift into your mind? It's like, okay, we have a big game coming up. We need to get locked in. When does that happen?
Mm-hmm. Well, honestly, to be honest with you, I'm sure with this group, and like in the past, I'm sure it started in the off season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you take a look at our schedule, earlier into the season, I'm sure a lot of motivation throughout the off season that, the strength staff, the coaches, everyone in the building used, to motivate the guys was this game. Obviously it was going to be a fun experience going over to Ireland, and then you have Tennessee State, and then you have NC State, and then, Central Michigan. But now this is the game. So,
Mm-hmm.
when you have those hard workouts in the off season, and, those morning workouts when they're bright and early or even cold outside and you got to run the stadium stairs, I'm sure this was the motivation, beat Ohio State, get revenge on Ohio State, maybe, so to speak. But, so I think they've been thinking about this game for, a year now, and especially in an off season, in the spring ball, things like that, and then especially summer workouts. But, now that the game is finally here, I'm sure as soon as the clock hit 00 this past Saturday, I'm sure they were already thinking about it. I'm sure the coaches in the locker room were like, enjoy this win. You got 24 hours, but we all know what's at hand next weekend, and especially the game being at home. The students on campus, the fans coming in town, they're not going to let you ignore the noise or ignore what's going to come this weekend. And so I'm sure you go in Sunday, you get recovery, you eat victory meal,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that, but I'm sure when they got back to work on Monday, it was tension in the air for sure. I'm sure they saw everything lining up. I'm sure ESPN was, on campus, probably on campus already, So It's as far as
Yeah.
everything on the outside the building, it's hard to ignore. Like every, teachers, students, friends, family. I even had to text a couple friends to get them pumped up. So I'm already knowing, like, from the outside, it started early. It started probably Monday, Tuesday for them. But inside the building, I think they take it as another week. Obviously for the veteran guys who played against Ohio State last year, I think they know what to expect. They know the atmosphere that they're walking into. But for the young guys, it's one of those things where this is why you came to Notre Dame. This is especially for the freshmen and recruiting pitches and things like that. On your recruiting visits, this is why you came to Notre Dame. This is the game you came to play in.
What was your process like in the 2017 Georgia game? Because a lot of people are thinking about that, and that you were coming off an injury in that one. And obviously, I think the Texas game for you in 2016 was probably a big deal because it was your first start and everything. But I think 2017 Georgia, where it's like you did have the Temple game before that, and then Georgia comes in. I imagine that as you watch film of that Georgia team, even then, like, it has to look a lot different, right? Like, are the players are the players discussing amongst themselves, like, man, like, this is a real team, or like how does that what does that look like when you first start to watch film on a team with like the athletes that Ohio State and Georgia have in these games?
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. For that Georgia game, it might have been a little different.
Hmm.
The year before we didn't play Georgia,
Right.
and obviously we didn't know that Georgia would later that year end up playing in the national championship game as well.
Hmm.
But that Georgia team was, very talented. They had two great running backs, Chubb and Sony Michelle. They had
Hmm.
some, talent on the outside. A lot of guys who play on Sunday, and and talent all over the defense as well. And so going into that game, I thought we had a great game plan. And when you go to Notre Dame and you're surrounded by the talent and the culture and the coaches that we have at Notre Dame, it's never like, oh, we don't stand a chance, or these guys may
Hmm.
be bigger and faster. Is they may have that one or two guys, like I mentioned, like a Sony Michelle or Nick Chubb, where it's just like, all right, like when he gets the ball, like we know we're gonna have to bring it. Like he's not a Temple running back. He's not any other running back that we might see. So we know that, like, okay, this player is a little different. We're gonna have to bring it for a player like him. But when you've gone to the battles, like I mentioned earlier, and through the hard days of spring ball, summer workouts,
Yeah.
and then getting a feel for your teammates early on into the season with a couple games under your belt, you start to feel confident. And I say it's different because when we played Georgia, we didn't play Georgia the year before. These guys have played Ohio State. They played them at a harder atmosphere. They played them at Ohio State, and I think they played a better team. I would argue that C.J. Stroud is better than Cal McCord right now, and so therefore I would say they played a better team. And so I think that coming into this game, they already know what they're about. We have a lot of
Hmm.
guys who played in that game last year, and we have a lot of guys who haven't played in that game last year who have already made a big impact. And so I think just having that experience already is going to give us a leg up. And being at home, I mean, there's nothing like a Saturday night game, in South Bend, and especially if the crowd isn't wearing if the crowd isn't wearing all red, then and it's mostly green, then it should be a completely different atmosphere. The guys should feel comfortable. They should feel ready to go. And so that would be the only difference. I mean, you look at a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., and
Mm.
I'm sure Coach Mickens and Coach O'Leary are talking to their guys like, hey, like if in order for us to win this game and to give our offense a chance to get on the field and things like that, we got to win against number 18, number 2 guys on the outside. We got to be able to, and if they're going to make catches, and if they do make
Yeah.
catches, we got to tackle them as soon as they make catches. I know Mbuka last year caught a curl and took it for a touchdown, I believe, last year in the Ohio State game. So
Hmm.
things like that, it's like, okay, they're going to catch the ball. We know they're going to catch the ball. They're potential first round receivers. We just got to make sure we get them on the ground when they tackle the ball. And so I mean, that's the only thing if you're looking at it as a skill point. But I think our talent it compares very well, very similar to theirs. And so, like I said, I'm excited to see this game.
What is your idea for like the best way for the coaches to handle it in terms of managing the players energy and their just I don't know, like their nerves or their because you can put a lot on the game, or you can kind of de-emphasize the game just to keep not to get them too up ahead of time. And just like you stress the importance, but also like it is one game out of 12. Like, do you think it's okay to push the button and say like this game matters more than other games, or like how do you think is better for the coaches to approach it, like in your opinion? Because obviously, you've played it, like, so the 2017 game, you guys came out and played fantastic, right? The 2019 Georgia game is another example where you guys came out and played really well. And then there's been other times in big games where it didn't go as well, right? And like right off the jump. So what do you think is the correct balance for the coaching staff to play in this situation?
I think it is important to emphasize that it is a big game,
Yeah.
but also emphasize that there will be mistakes. You will, I'm sure, you're running out of the tunnel. You will be nervous because
Yeah.
that's football. Like I said, a lot of these guys, a lot of guys that are making contributions this year are some transfers and some
Mm-hmm.
young guys who haven't played maybe in this atmosphere yet. And so there will be some nerves, there will be some mistakes for sure. And so I take it as like you really treat it at I want you to treat it as what this game is. It is a big game. It is an ESPN college game day game. And I want, the players to understand the magnitude of the game, but that doesn't mean change your preparation,
Mm-hmm.
change, what you do, change how you go about your preparation throughout the week. And then on game day, it's just you're emphasizing that this is Notre Dame. This is why
Yeah.
you came here, and like it could either make or break you. And at the end of the day, I think you do let them. Like, I don't think you tell them this, but I think everyone in the building knows that this isn't win or go home type of thing. Where it's college football, we
Yeah.
have bigger games later on in the year. Like we have USC and we have some other games where a one loss team or a one loss team won't necessarily knock them out of playoffs. Obviously, we want to go undefeated, but I think that is, something that you can kind of think about where it's just like, I'm just going to go make plays. I'm going to go ball. I'm going to go have fun because this isn't the end of the season. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think for a coach, I would just tell him like, let it all hang loose. We got nothing to lose. We're at home. We're in front of our home crowd. This team beat us last year. We know what they're about. And we know the guys that they have, the talent that they have, but we also know that the talent that we have in our room as well. And 10 times out of 10, I'm sure the coaches will pick our guys any time of the week. And so I think, I was telling you a little bit before, but I think this is an opportunity for us to go out there and dominate. I think we have at the pivotal positions, I think we're better. And I wouldn't have said that last year. And so
Mm-hmm.
now I think the kids believe that, the coaches believe that, and now you just got to go out there and show it on Saturday.
All right, so let's talk about that then. You say Notre Dame should be able to go out and dominate. Obviously, that's I don't want to say bold talk. I mean, it's you're playing Ohio State, right? And Notre Dame hasn't historically, like you were on the 2015 team, you were injured with your ACL, you were on that team in the Fiesta Bowl, and there were a lot of injuries for Notre Dame, going in. And I think it's a little bit different when it's like a end of season bowl game type thing, and when it's like a late September game as well. But obviously, you guys lost that game, and Notre Dame hasn't beaten Ohio State in recent history, right? Like lost in 95, 96, all by double digits, right? Like every loss to Ohio State that Notre Dame has had in, again, recent history has been by double digits. Why do you feel like this team is set up to beat Ohio State and, to use your word, dominate them?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, a lot of people may look at the brand and the name
Mm-hmm.
of Ohio State right now, and I don't think obviously in the past, I think they've had the talent and the personnel to where it's just like, okay, like this is a scary team, regardless of the brand, regardless of the name being Ohio State, and I don't want that to distract our team, our fan
Yeah.
base at all, because I mean and it can sometimes, like if you look at the USF Alabama game, I mean if you go in and you play that game and it's, oh, we're playing Alabama, but you're not, like if you're playing the Calvin Ridley, the Bryce Young or Eddie Lacy or Mark Ingram, Eddie Lacy, or Alabama, if you're thinking about that when you're preparing, you're going to go into the game scared. You're going to go into the game timid, thinking that you can't dominate. Well, this is a different, Alabama team. This isn't the same personnel.
Mm.
And I say that to compare it to Ohio State. If you go in thinking about, oh, we're playing C.J. Stroud or we're playing a Zeke Elliott or Joey Bosa, something like that, where you're not gonna go into the game as confidence. But I personally don't believe like this is that caliber of a team. I think we have the better quarterback. I think I love Estime. I love the depth that we have at running back. I like their
Mm-hmm.
running backs as well. And obviously, they have Marvin at receiver and they have some top guys at receiver, but I love our DBs. I love the depth and the physicality and the energy that our DBs are playing with. And so I think when you look at that and you look at you compare it to the 2015, that 2015 team was a team that just came off the national championship, who returned a lot of those starters from that national championship. And honestly, if it wasn't maybe for coaching and not running the ball in a storm against Michigan State, I think there was a low scoring game, but
Yeah.
that team goes back to the national championship and probably wins the national championship. That team was unreal comparing to where we were with the injuries and things like that at Notre Dame, but that year. So I think if we go out there and play the personnel, I like us to dominate, and that's why I say that, just because I don't want us to look at the brand name. I don't want us to look at the uniforms and things like that and get distracted. I think if we go out there and play who we're playing on the field, I think we have a great edge, and I think we'll be able to control the game, running the ball. I know Golden will have something prepared. Well, I thought he prepared the team very well last year. There were some plays where, like I mentioned, the curl that got loose for a touchdown, the post and cover zero in the blitz. It's just little things like that got us that could change the momentum of a game. Where I thought we played great with Love, Tyler, Buckner, but I think now Sam is a better player, and I think everyone will agree. Where it's like I love our chances. What we have this year.
Yeah, one of the biggest matchups in the game, obviously, is Ohio State's wide receivers against Notre Dame defensive backs, and I would say this year Notre Dame has a good roster back there to counteract what is usually like a huge advantage for Ohio State in pretty much every game that they play. Marvin Harrison is a in my opinion great player. If he was like if allowed to go to the NFL, like he would be a starting NFL wide receiver for someone right now.
For sure.
So there's that. But I do want to ask you about Notre Dame's defensive backs because you're a former DB. I've been very impressed with their organization in the back. The way that they play a lot of coverages where they're passing each other off, or they're passing receivers off to each other. They're splitting robbers. They're switching robbers. They're really confusing the defense, but that can also be confusing for a defensive backfield. And I feel like they've done very well back there. They've been very, to use the term, organized. They're not turning guys loose. What have you seen from those guys in the back, and how you feel like that, can kind of mitigate the advantage that Ohio State has at wide receiver?
Mm-hmm. Well, for one, I love the energy that they're playing with.
Yeah.
And they're attacking the ball, which is I'm sure every defense, every defensive coach, every defensive back, they always preach, attack the ball, get your hands on the ball, and I think they've done a great job, from starters to backups. Like I think everyone has been able to get their hands on the ball, and then when they do create and make plays, I saw Clarence Lewis pull out some nice juke moves and get to the end zone. Obviously, Benjamin Morrison high pointing the ball against NC State. Xavier is doing great. We have some transfers back there that's making plays. DJ Brown, I know he might have missed a little bit, but I love what when they replaced him, how organized they still look, how unbeat they still look. So I love the depth back there that we have. And you talk about Cam Hart, who's a veteran guy who's gonna probably take on a lot of Marvin Harrison along with Ben Morrison. Like Ben's still young, but I think Ben has played a lot of football and he's very confident. He's athletic, and he's confident in his talent and technique. Where I believe that our guys are up for the challenge. I'm sure since the offseason they've heard that Ohio State has Marvin Harrison. They have Mbuka. They have the number one receiving core, in the entire country. And so I'm sure this entire week, I'm sure when we played Alabama, all we heard was, about Devontae Smith. Now, we didn't handle Devontae Smith very well, but I don't think, obviously I think this is a different team, than we had, and also that we played. But I think that they're up for the challenge. I think they've heard all the noise throughout the offseason, obviously throughout the season as well. And I think they're going to be ready to peak. I think we've been tested against, some solid receivers this year. And so I've seen some of the coverages that Ohio State has gotten open in. You look at, Youngstown State, Indiana. Like Indiana played them pretty well. They were locked. They were locked in. They were locked up. Whereas like a game like Youngstown State, Western Kentucky, it just seems like those defensive backs were just running around and pretty kind of lost on defense. And that's where they got open. That's where they got their long yardage and got their touchdowns. So I think if we play sound, get pressure on the quarterback. I love us against those receivers. Like, and obviously if you put them in man the entire game, it's going to be a hard day. It's going to be a hard day for anyone who's playing man against Marvin Harrison. Like you mentioned, could start in NFL right now. And so I do trust Golden. I trust Mickens, O'Leary to change up some coverages, to throw different things at him. I saw Ben come on a corner blitz last week. So just throwing different things at him will just, mix things up a little bit for sure.
And I do want to mention Thomas Harper in the slot, number 13. He's been doing really well on the nickel. Probably best nickel at Notre Dame since you. Which is good. I felt like, Shaun Crawford was like the only real nickel Notre Dame had for it's a good thing you were around so long, because they never really replaced you. And I feel like he's a really good fit in that position. He's going to have a key role in this game. And I wanted to talk to you. So you're from Lakewood, Ohio. Okay. And you're obviously very familiar with Ohio State. Actually committed to Michigan at one point. So you're like, there's a lot going on for you in terms of, not choosing Ohio State, I guess. And what would this mean? I'm curious what this game, because I feel like this game would mean so much for just the program itself. I feel like Notre Dame they have an opportunity here. Marcus Freeman's picked up some big commitments just this week from quarterback and offensive lineman. And I feel like Notre Dame really wants to kind of take over that Midwest again. How big would it be for Notre Dame to come out on top against Ohio State in this matchup?
Well, I mean, I think you talked about it a little bit. Like recruiting will be huge, and you talk about Freeman being an Ohio guy, and Mickens also being an Ohio guy. I think when you go speaking specifically to Ohio, I think when you go into a kid's living room in Ohio and you can say, we beat Ohio State, we beat the team down the street. I think that holds a lot of weight. I think that moves the program to a different level, a new level, because you talk about especially kids nowadays. Like when you watch football, like when I was coming out of high school, all I knew of Notre Dame a little bit was the Brady Quinn era, the Bush push, Manti Te'o, and them, losing to Alabama and things like that, where that's kind of what I grew up on Notre Dame as, where these kids that are in high school now, they're going to remember a freshman and sophomore in high school or junior in high school. They're going to remember this. They're going to this is going to be the last memory that they have of Ohio State Notre Dame. A lot of those kids probably didn't watch the 2015 Ohio State Notre Dame matchup, and definitely didn't watch the 1996 matchup. And so this will leave a huge imprint in their minds when they're thinking about recruiting, when they're thinking about going on visits and things like that. And so it's going to be huge, because now you take this and you can say, oh, well, I know there's a lot of talk about Ohio State joining the Big Ten and things like that, where, okay.
You mean Notre Dame joining the Big Ten?
Yeah. Notre Dame joining the Big Ten. Sorry. Yeah. And you go in and say, oh, well, we beat, the quote unquote best team, one of the best teams in the Big Ten. It's like, we don't need to be in a conference and things like that. And so I think it holds a lot of weight, especially for recruiting, and also, bragging rights in the Midwest. Because there's a bunch of Ohio State fans, obviously Michigan fans, just Big Ten fans that are, hating on Notre Dame for not being in a conference. But I always like to say, like, when we went into the ACC, we went in there and dominated it for a year. Unfortunately, we didn't win the ACC, but it's just like we went in that conference. We went in there and just dominated it and took over and made the ACC championship our one and only year in it. And so I think this is just an opportunity to prove that, to the Big Ten fans, to the Ohio State fans, that we are dominant. We can control, who we play, and we control that by playing the best. And so that was one of the reasons why I even chose to go to Notre Dame, because I knew that I was going to play the best teams on the West Coast. I was going to play, some of the best teams on the East Coast, and then we're going to luckily end up playing like a Michigan one year, a Texas one year. And so this is something that, holds a lot of weight for recruits. And when you can come out and win those games, and you got kids who are already committed to Notre Dame, I think that's one of the biggest things, where it's like you can go back to school the next Monday and be like, oh yeah, Notre Dame took care of Ohio State, things like that. I think, for a kid that holds a ton of weight.
Does this Notre Dame team feel different to you?
I think so. And I want to say just because the quarterback, the energy around the games and the team. I think when we go into the game, we expect to put on a show. We expect to see a show from a fan, and I think as players as well. When you have a quarterback that you believe and that you can trust in, I think the defense plays a lot more free. You're not so uptight where, oh, we got to keep them out of the end zone. If they score, we may not be able to, get in the end zone. We may not be able to match their points. And you can see the energy as well on the offensive side of the ball. Like, every receiver is touching the ball. Every running back is touching the ball. And it's just like when you go into the game knowing that there's just opportunity, tons of opportunity out there. And I'm saying this, I'm putting a lot of pressure on Sam, but I think he's played a lot of football. I think he's handled it very well. That I think he understands like the magnitude of this game and how much he means to this team. Because like I said, like when you watch it as a fan, that we're expecting to see a show. And so going out there, like if we give up, an early touchdown or things like that, like last week's game, the offense kind of drove their offense kind of drove on our defense a little bit. It wasn't like, oh boy, like, this is tough, but it was just like, okay, like we'll get it going. Like once we see Sam start to roll out there, start to complete passes, Aldrich, gets the ball in his hands, makes some big plays. I think everyone in the stadium, but everyone on the team just feeds off that energy that he brings.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point you just made about how the quarterback can affect the defense as well. Because I think in last year's game, the defense was playing great and they gave up the play to lose the lead. It's 14-10. And I mean, it's a one-score game, right? Like that's generally no big deal. But I think for a defense where if you don't have that confidence in your quarterback and your offense, then it's deflating, and then the offense doesn't go pay it off, and then you have to go stop them again. And we saw Ohio State move the ball on Notre Dame late on the ground. And I think a little bit what happens is there's that deflating factor of just like, we blew it. Like we had the lead and we weren't able to keep it. And now it's like, we're never going to get it back. It doesn't matter kind of what we do, especially on the run game. And I think just the knowledge that, like you said, like there's confidence that the quarterback can come in and move the ball, and you're going to move the ball. It helps the defense so much in that instance. So you said or you told me beforehand, you'll be at the game. Hopefully there won't be a red out or whatever that is for the Ohio State fans. It does feel different to me this year. Just anecdotally, I don't have like a lot of people want tickets and just asking me like, do you know of tickets that I can get? Like, and like no one asked me. Like that's usually not a thing. Have you sensed that? Have you sensed like a different vibe like that from the Notre Dame fan base?
I mean, yeah, just from social media. I mean, it seems like that, the fan base is really bought in. They're really excited to see this game. Obviously, it's a big matchup that hasn't, been played at Notre Dame. in a very long time. So I think every Notre Dame fan is excited to get out there and to see this matchup. I know a lot of people from my class in general, just not playing football, but just in class from my students, they're all coming back. Like everyone's coming back in town for this game, and so I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the crowd looks like. But to be honest, even when Georgia came to town, I didn't expect the crowd to look how it did even then, and so can't really speak. I guess we won't really know until we see it. But no, I think at the end of the day, I think the fans and the community is very behind the team this year. I think they traveled very, very well to Ireland. So I'm just excited to see, what the stadium will look like this weekend in South Bend.
All right. Before I let you go, you want to give a game prediction?
Oh, I do think it'll be I think there will be points scored for sure. So I'm thinking like maybe like 38 to let's go like 38 31 maybe. I think it'll be
38,
close.
31.
Yeah, I think it'll be close, but I think obviously Notre Dame will win. But I think it'll take. I don't think either defense is honestly like stout. So, but I do think Notre Dame could give up some early points, and then I do think Sam will obviously be clicking with his guys. Audric will play great. So I do think it'll be a little high scoring, but obviously I think we'll win at the end of the day.
We'll take 38-31. We'll definitely take that outcome. Well, thanks, Shaun. I know you're real busy today. You got a lot going on. You're going to be heading out to South Bend this weekend. So thanks for coming on. Always love having you on. You share really good insights, and hopefully have a great time. Hope everyone's happy on Saturday.
Yeah, no, Greg. Thanks for having me.
For sure.